So, good morning, Kal Kadosh. The Daf Yomi of today is Daf Lamed Chet. Okay, so today is Daf Lamed Chet. We are going to start doing Lamed Zayin Amud Bet. We're starting from the last line where it says Ba minim Rebuchia bar Abba. So the halacha states like this. The Gemara says like this: Ba minim Rebuchia bar Abba. They asked the question from Rebuchia bar Abba. Shachach kidra al gabe kida. Imagine right now a person forgot on Erev Shabbat a pot, right, al gabe kida, on top of a fire which was not garuv katum, which means that they did not take out the coals or they didn't cover the coals. Ubishla, and then what happened is that it finished cooking on Shabbat. Mau, what's the halacha? Okay, since it was a sur, right, according to this person, obviously. So basically, the diavad, is it permitted to eat this food or not? That's what the Gemara is asking. So ishtik. So what happened was Rebuchia bar Abba kept quiet and he didn't answer anything. He just kept quiet. The next day, Nafak v'darash lehu, he went and he was doresh from Mishnah and Trumot. The Mishnah says, Vashel b'Shabbat b'shogeg. If somebody is going to cook on Shabbat b'shogeg, so for example, he forgot that it was Shabbat or he didn't know it was a sur to cook on Shabbat, yochal, it's permitted for him to eat it. B'mezid, but if he did it purposely, okay, Lo yochal, he's not allowed to eat it. Now it says over here, now to do with the isur of shehiyah, lo shna, there's no difference. Meaning there's no difference between shogeg and mezid, but rather it's the same in both cases. So now again, one more time. We have in Shabbat cooking. Cooking is an isur doraita. The isur doraita of cooking is you're not allowed to be mubashel. So therefore, if you cannot cook on Shabbat and somebody chas v'shalom cooked, so if it was b'shogeg, accidentally, they could eat it. But if it was purposely, they're not allowed to eat it. However, though, shehiyah is not doraita. Shehiyah is derabbanan. It's a rabbinic decree. Maybe you're going to come and do an isur doraita, whether of stoking the coals, which would be mav'id, and so on and so forth. So therefore, if a person right now forgot and they did shehiyah in a prohibited way, shehiyah means they left it on a live fire on Erev Shabbat. So they left it there in a prohibited way. What's the halacha regarding the food? Am I allowed to benefit from the food or not allowed to benefit from the food? So what this Rebuchia bar Abba was trying to say is that by Shabbat, there's a difference between shogeg and mezid. But by shehiyah, there's no difference between shogeg and mezid. So says the Gemara, one second, there's no difference between shogeg and mezid, but what's the halacha? Is the halacha that there's no difference, it means that it's like a mezid? Or is zalacha, there's no difference, it means that it's like a shogeg. If it's a shogeg, you can eat it. If it's like a mezid, you can't eat it. So what does that mean? There's no difference. Okay, chazak uru, there's no difference between shogeg and mezid, but which one is it? Is it like a shogeg or is it like a mezid? So says the Gemara, my veloshna. What does that mean, veloshna? Is the kavanah that it should be mutar, it should be permitted because it's like a shogeg, right? Or is the kavanah that it's going to be asur in both cases? So Rabba v'Rav Yosef damnu tavayim. Rabba v'Rav Yosef also them said, le'teira. What does that mean? It's le'ter, which means is that it's going to be less stringent than cooking on Shabbat, okay? And therefore, it's going to be permitted. Mivashelu dekavi maaseh, because bishul, you did an action on Shabbat. And therefore, b'mezid lo yochal, you can't eat it b'mezid. Aval hai, but this case of shehiyah, the lo kavi maaseh, you didn't do any proactive. You didn't actively do a maaseh. You just left it there. Leaving it there is not an action. It's not doing an action, right? You just left it there on the fire on Erev Shabbat. So therefore, b'mezid nami yochal, you could also eat it on Shabbat. However, though, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak comes and he says the opposite way. Not like Rabba v'Rav Yosef. He says li'isura, that they're both going to be asur, whether it's b'shogeg or b'mezid. He says why? Mivashelu de lo ati le'rumei. He says by bishul, you're not going to come and we're not going to suspect you to do it b'mezid, right? We're not going to suspect you doing it purposely and then say that I did it by accident. Because we're not going to suspect people of being mechalel Shabbat. You understand? We're not going to suspect people of being desecrating the Shabbat. However, though, right, he says, so therefore, b'shogeg yuchal. But in this case, ati l'rume, since it's only d'Rabbanan, people have a natural tendency to be mizalzel in d'Rabbanan. It's only rabbinical. It's only midrabbanan, like meaning, from the Torah, it's okay. And it's supposed to be the exact opposite. So because of that, there was an extra stringency that even shogeg they cannot eat in such a case. Okay, which makes sense. So Meitvei, so now they're going to ask the following question. We're going to ask now on Rabba V'Rav Yosef that they both said it was lehetera, which means they both said that it was going lenient. So it says like this, Meitvei, they asked the following question, Shachach kedra al gabe kira uvishla b'Shabbat. What happens right now if you forgot a pot on the fire, on the kira, which is not krufa ketuma, which means on an oven that they didn't take out the coals or they didn't put the ashes on the coals, ubishla b'Shabbat, and then it finished cooking on Shabbat, b'shogeg, if it was on shogeg, right, by accident, you're allowed to eat it. If it was b'mezid, you can't eat it. So b'med, what are these words? Right? Which food are we talking about? We're talking about hot water, which didn't finish boiling, or food, which didn't finish cooking. But however, if we're talking about water, which was 100% boiled before Shabbat, or a food that was 100% cooked before Shabbat, right? Whether shogeg or mezid, you could eat it. Who are these words? These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda says, though, that if it was fully boiled, right, water which was fully boiled is going to be permitted. Because it's the further cooking, excessive cooking, makes it worse. However, the food which was fully cooked is asur, because the more that it cooks, the better that it is. This is, for example, carobs, or different types of beans, all right? Or basar taruf, which is like minced meat, right? In all of these cases, it's going to be asur. But anything that's mitzamek veralo is going to be permitted, which means the more that you cook it, which is called mitzamek v'yafelo. So yesterday we brought an example of cholent. Cholent or chamin, right? That in itself, an adafina, is what's called mitzamek v'yafelo. The more that it cooks, the better that it becomes. Right? Certain soups are the same way. You understand? However, though, right, when we're talking about hot water, the more that it cooks, the worse that it is, because now it's going to evaporate. Or, for example, anything that has kemach that we learned yesterday, anything that has dough, the more that it cooks, the worse that it becomes. Right? It'll get burnt. So therefore it says, so we're trying to finish off now the question. Ktani miha, though we learned, tavshir shelo b'shel kotzoko, if it was a food that wasn't fully cooked, right, what did we learn? We said that it was going to be asur, right, if it was b'mezid. But if it was going to be b'shogeg, it's going to be mutar. That was according to Rabbi Meir. So it comes out that Rabbi Chia bar Abba was the one that said that there's no difference between shogeg and mezid. So if there's no difference between shogeg and mezid, so what's going on then? So Bishma Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, right, is good Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, la kashya, it's not a question. Why? Which means, Kavanat Rabbi Chia bar Abba was talking about that it's asur in both cases, so there's no contradiction. Why? There's no stira the braita. Kan kon kizira, kan gachar kizira. One braita was talking about before the Gezerah. So before the Gezerah, right, it was going to be permitted, right, even if it was going to be b'shogeg. But the other one, which Rabbi Chia said that it's going to be asur, was after the Gezerah, was after the decree that they said that whether it's shogeg or mazid, it's always going to be asur. Ela Rabbi Yosef, but according to Rabbi Yosef, the Amri Le'atera, that they were the ones that said that both of them is going to be mutar. Whether you forgot it b'shogeg or forgot it b'mezid, it's going to be mutar. If it's going to be called gezerah, so then you have a question, kasha mezid, you have a question on mezid. That if you did it purposely, it should be permitted. And here we're saying it's prohibited. And if it's going to be after the gezerah, so you have also a question also on shogeg now. That even b'shogeg it should be prohibited as well. So kasha, so be'emet, it's a good question, be'emet, right, on Rabbi V'Rav Yosef. So basically, one more time. On Shabbat, Bishul, it was Pashut, that we went and we said that if a person cooked on Shabbat, B'mezid, it's asur. There's nothing what to talk about, okay? Now the question was, what about B'shogeg? So we brought down that if it was B'shogeg, it's going to be mutar to eat. The truth is, we're going to learn later on. It's a three-way machloket later on. Okay, fine. Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yochanan. Okay. Now what happens is, but what about Shehiyah? Remember, the Perek Kira is the Perek talking about Shehiyah. Shehiyah means I'm leaving something on a fire on Erev Shabbat. So here, I can leave something on a live stove Erev Shabbat. So many times this happens. There's a book called Dira Days. They used to do these things in the mirror, right? Or many times it used to happen, people go away, whether it's to a hotel, to one of these hotels that they have a kitchen, or they rent out an apartment, and they're not going to kosher, they're not going to bring their crock pot and this and that, too many things. So what do? They have a live stove, right, like a live fire, and they turn it on and they put the children, the chamin directly on there. So now, technically speaking, that's called chamin, that's called on shehiyah, which is on a live fire. So we already brought down the machloka between Hananya and Chachamim, that according to Hananya, if it's already half cooked, we're not going to suspect that you're going to stoke the coals, which means you're going to turn up the flame. And according to the rabbis, it has to be fully cooked. Okay, that was one machloka that we already brought down. But now let's say that you did shehiyah be'isur, which means you went against the rabbis. You did the shehiyah when you weren't supposed to. Whether according to one opinion, whether according to the other opinion, whichever opinion it was, you for sure did a transgression. So now we wanted to say that is there a difference between shogeg and mezid? Is there a difference between by accident or on purpose? So we said, Reb Chia bar Abba said, there's no difference. It's the same halacha. Now 1 second. Same halacha that we're going stringent, or same halacha that we're going lenient. Right? Which way? Right? It's the same halacha, shogeg and mezid, accident and purpose, but which way? To stringent or to lenient? So there was a machloket, Rabbi Rav Yosef say lenient, and Nachman bar Yitzchak says stringent. So says the Gemara, if you're going to tell me like Nachman bar Yitzchak, so then it's perfect. Why? Because one braita says that it's going to be permitted b'shogeg, and one braita says it's prohibited b'shogeg. It just says one's before the gezerah, one's after the gezerah. One's before the decree. Before the decree, be'emet, accident was permitted. On purpose was always prohibited. After they made the decree, even by accident was asur. So it makes sense according to him. But if you're going to tell me like Rabbi Rav Yosef, 1 second. If it's before the decree, why is it going to be asur if it was done by mezid? Mezid and shogeg is the same halacha. It should be both permitted. And if it's after the decree, so then even shogeg should be also should be permitted. Why do you say no? Shogeg and mezid is going to, what's going on? So says the Gemara, what was the decree? My gezerata, what was the decree? The Amar Rav Yehuda bar Shmuel, Amar Rav Yabba bar Kana Amar Rav, says Rav Yehuda bar Shmuel, Nimar Rav Yabba bar Kana Amar Rav. But Chila ya omrim, at the beginning they used to say, Hamvashel b'Shabbat b'shogeg, yochal, b'mezid lo yochal. At the beginning they said that if a person cooked on Shabbat, it was by accident, he's allowed to eat it. If it's on purpose, he's not allowed to eat it. The huadin l'shochech, this exact same halachot apply to forgetting a pot on the fire. The second that a lot of people forgot and they were putting it on the fire on Erev Shabbat and forgetting it, ki'ilu. You understand? There's a lot of people that ki'ilu. Yeah, I forgot it. Yeah, I don't remember. You understand? I completely forgot. So then they made the decree and they made a knas, a penalty. The penalty was that even if somebody forgot it, it's asur as well. That means it became even more stringent than the Rabbanan, which is it's not uncommon. It's very common that they were much more strict on the rules of the Rabbanan than even on the Doraitas. Okay? So now says the Gemara, Kasha de Rabbi Meir, the Kasha de Rabbi Yehuda. Says the Gemara, 1 second. According to what we just learned now, there's a stira between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Meir. And there's a stira between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yehuda. He says, why? He says, why? Because according to Rabbi Meir, here he says that if you did it and it was already fully cooked, you're allowed to eat it. Whether it was mitzamek veralo or mitzamek v'yafelo. The Braita that we just mentioned just said now that Rabbi Meir only permitted it, only chamin, only hot water. And furthermore, here Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, okay, Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, a food that was nibashel kol tzorko, a food that was fully cooked, and you forgot it there, you're not allowed to eat it if it's mitzamek v'yafelo. And the Braita said whether it's chamin or ven tavshil, whether it's chamin or tavshil. So you have a contradiction in Rabbi Meir, and you have a contradiction in Rabbi Yehuda. So says the Gemara, the Rabbi Meir la kashya. It's not a contradiction in Rabbi Meir, the Rabbi Meir. It says why? Hal lechatchila b'diavad. One's lechatchila, one's b'diavad. Lechatchila, obviously you're not allowed to, but b'diavad, if you already did do it, right? Then he says, so then okay, fine. B'diavad, you're allowed to eat the food. So therefore, there's no contradiction. You're not allowed to. B'diavad, it's okay. Okay, so that's according to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda, that's also not a question. One is talking about garuf v'katum, one is talking about not garuf v'katum. If it's garuf v'katum, it means that you covered the fire, so then it's going to become permitted. But if it wasn't covered the fire, so then that's what he's going to say, that it's going to become prohibited. If it's going to be mitzamech v'afelo, it's prohibited, because I'm going to suspect that maybe you're going to come and you're going to stoke the coals, because remember, excessive cooking, the more that you cook it, the better that it becomes. Okay? Next, ibai lehu. Next question. Avar v'shaha mai. What happens if a person was avar v'shaha, which means he did it purposely, right? He went and he did shehiyah. What's halacha? Kansu rabbanan or lo? Did the rabbis prohibit the food or not? So tashema, we're going to try to bring a proof. It says when Rabbi Yosef went to Tzipore, it says matzah chamin shenishal gabe kira, right? He found chamin, hot water, which was on top of a kira. Velo asar lahem. He didn't prohibit it. It was mitzamek veralo. Beitzim mutzakot shenishal gabe kira. He found eggs, right, on a kira which is not garuv ketum. Ve'asar otan, and he prohibited it. Why? Because an egg is always mitzamek v'afelo, which we're going to explain later on, which means that eggs, the more that you cook it, the better that it is. So my love leota Shabbat, are we not talking about that Rabbi Yosef went and he prohibited for the same Shabbat, which means that he prohibited them, right? So you see from here that if you left it on a fire, it's going to be asur to eat it. And so the Gemara, no. The Shabbat aba'ah, right? He says we're talking about the next Shabbat, but not on the same Shabbat. So it means it comes out that he only prohibited it for the next, you can't eat it for next Shabbat, but this Shabbat is going to be permitted. So miklal, so 1 second. It comes out the beitzim mutzakot are mitzvah yafelo. So it comes out the eggs is mitzamek yafelo, which means further cooking makes it better. Is that true? So it says yes. The Amar v'chamar v'chanina says v'chamar v'chanina. Pam achani derachti ani. Once I was visited, I myself and Rebbe the makom echad. Reviu lefarenu betzum mitzumakot. Right? It says kiuzradim. That means basically there were eggs that they were so skinny, because they cooked them so much that they were so skinny like uzradim. Like it's like it says here, I mean, tapuche bar tanim, like they're very small like potatoes. So we just continued eating them. Yeah? So he says, so from here, this is a proof that it's actually better, that the more that it cooks, the better that it actually becomes. Okay, fine. 2 dots. Okay, we're on the bottom of Masechet Amud Aleph. Bet Hillel Omrim, Bet Hillel says you're even allowed to do chazara, you're allowed to return things to the fire. Amar Rav Sheshat, it says Rav Sheshat, Ledivrei Omer, according to the one that says, right, Lamedchet Amubet, according to the one that says Machzirim, Afilu b'Shabbat, that you're allowed to put a kira grufa back even on Shabbat, right, and not only from Leil Shabbat, right? So he says, Ve'af Rav Hoshia savara Machzirim, Afilu b'Shabbat. Even Rav Hoshia holds that you could do chazara even on Shabbat. Which remember, one more time, shehiyah means I left something on the fire before Shabbat. Chazara means I took it off on Shabbat and I put it back on Shabbat. Okay, D'amar Rav Hoshia, it says Rav Hoshia, Pam achat hayinu omdim le'elam Rav Chia Rabba. Once we were in front of Rav Chia, right, Rabba, right, which is Rav Chia Gadol. Okay, so he says over here, Rav Chia Gadol, okay, Tanaim Acharonim, during the time of Yudah Nasi. So it says, Vehelanu lo kumkum shel chamin midyota tachtona, edyota alyona. So we brought up a kumkum of water, of hot water, right, from the dyota tachtona, which means from the koma tachtona of the house to the koma alyona, from the bottom floor to the top floor. Umazagnu lo takos, and we poured him the hot water. We put it back in its place. Velo amar lanu davar. He didn't tell us anything. So you see from here, right, that you're allowed to do chazara on Shabbat on a kira grufa ktuma. Was there one more time? They took the hot water urn, they brought it upstairs, they poured in, and then they came back downstairs. So you see from here that and they put it back down on the fire, right? Again, the fire was covered, but they put it back down. So Amar Rav Zeka, Amar Rav Abba, Amar Rav Tadai says Rav Zeka Nimr Rav Nimr Tadai. That's only if they still had it in their hand. But if they put it on the floor, asur. So by the way, you should know this is the minhag Ashkenazim. Minhag Ashkenazim is that it has to be still in their hands. Sfaradim, you're allowed to put it down, but also according to Sfaradim, you're not allowed to put it on the floor. Because if you put it on the floor, so then that's it. And there's a whole question about the countertop. Is the countertop considered the floor or not? Amar Rabbi Yami Says Rabbi Yami. So these are conditions of chazara. Conditions of chazara means conditions that I need in order to do chazara, to put something back on into the hot plate on Shabbat or onto the fire on Shabbat. Sam Rabbi Yami. Says Rabbi Yami. Rabbi Tadai de'avad legalmehu de'avad. Says no, this Rabbi Tadai was doing according to his own reasoning. But this is what Rabbi Yochanan. Even if you put it on the floor, it's mutar. You're allowed to do it. So according to him, you're actually allowed to do chazara even if you did put it on the floor. So he says, Pliga bar Rav Dimi, Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda, says really it's a machlokim between Rav Dimi and Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda. The Tarvayu Mishmed Rabbi Eliezer Amneh. And both of them said it in the name of Rabbi Lazar. Chadamar, one said, Odam biyado mutar, al gabe karka asur, that if it's still in your hands, it's permitted. If it's on the floor, it's going to be prohibited. And one of them says, if you put it on the floor, it's still permitted. So it comes out that this is actually a machloket between the Monaim as well. Okay, another condition of chazara. So basically, to do the first one, it's a machloket. And I already told you how we paskin, whether it's for the Ashkenazim or the Sfaradim. Next.
But Rav, doesn't that how long does it stay on the ground?
What do you mean by how long? No. Here it doesn't matter. Here, if I put it on the ground, even for half a minute or half a second, I put it on the ground and I let go of it. Amarnu, I can't do chazara.
Okay.
And the same halacha would apply for Ashkenazim. That's why for Ashkenazim, I remember once doing this in the yeshiva. They had this huge pot, and they wanted to do chazara. You needed like 3 boys there. You needed like 2 boys to hold the pot, 1 boy to come and to serve, and then to put it back on the fire. Because if they didn't have it in their hands,
it's finished.
Or they didn't have it in their hands, that's it. They can't put it back on the fire.
Okay.
Another condition in chazara, in returning, Amar Chizkiya Mishmeh de Abaye, says Chizkiya in the name of Abaye, Hada Amarta Odam Biado, that which we said, that it still had to be in your hand, mutar, that it's going to be permitted, lo amran, this is only ela shedato la'achzir, if you had in mind from the beginning to put it back on the fire. Aval en dato la'achzir, but if you didn't have in mind to put it back on the fire, asur, you're not allowed to. So this is another condition for Ashkenazim. According to Ashkenazim, if you wanted to do chazara, you have to have that, right, odam biado, dato la'achzir. Dato la'achzir means you have to have in mind from the beginning, when you took it off, that you want to put it back on. For Sfaradim, you don't need this. Which means for Sfaradim, even if you took it off and you put it on top of one of these things, like a towel on the countertop, even if you didn't have it in mind, and even if you didn't have it in your hand, you could put it back on the fire. There's going to be a few other conditions, even according to Sfaradim, but these 2 we do not need. According to Ashkenazim, you need these both. So says the Gemara, Miklal. However, though we can infer from that which we just said right now, that if you did put it on the floor, even though you had that tolachzir, it's going to be asur. That's what comes out. That if it's on the floor, nothing what to talk about, because it's already on the floor. Okay? Ikadamni, there are those that say, Amar Chizkiya Mishmed Abaye, says Chizkiya in the name of Abaye, that which you just said that now, if you're going to put it on the floor, it's going to be asur. That's only if you didn't have the mindset to put it back. But if dato lachzir, it's going to be mutar even on the floor. So according to this version, it's lenient. That even on the floor, dato lachzir is the most important. Meaning as long as you wanted to put it back on the fire, as long as you wanted to put it back on the fire, that's all that I need. Miklal, so it comes out, she'odam biado, right? Then when we're talking about odam biado, afal pi shen dato lachzir mutar. So it comes out that if it's in your hand, you don't need that tolachzir according to this mandama. Okay? So again, we have these doubts about this. So we're going like more stringent or which is more important? That tolachzir or dam biado? By Rabbi Yirmiyah, another question that we have, tzlam b'malkel, if you're going to right now hang it on top of a peg, what's the halacha? Or if you put it on a bed, nichan gabe mita, what's the halacha? Is that considered like nichan gabe karka? Or is that considered dam biado or not? So by Rav Ashi, another question, pinami mecham lemecham, right? If you're going to move it from one hot water, from one kira to another kira, which means I'm going to move it from one hot plate to another hot plate. What's halacha? Teiku. So the last three questions to do with if you put it on top of a peg, on a bed, or on the mecham, which means that you transferred it from one to another, it's a teiku. We don't have an answer. Now, since it's a teiku, okay, so there's also going to be a machloket. Usually the Rama would be more stringent, right? And the Maran is actually more lenient, okay? Which means, because again, since here we're talking about the Rabbanans, so the Maran was more lenient and the Rama was more stringent. So in all these cases, okay? Until here we're clear? Okay. Next Mishnah. So Mishnah says, Tanur shesikua bekashu gava, lo yiten ben mitocho ben me'al gavav. Okay, so you know the truth is, let me just take a picture. So you guys can see with your own eyes what is a tanur and what is a kida. So 1 second. Okay, so I just sent it. Let me just try to share the screen. I apologize. I don't know what's taking so long. Oh, it's not giving it to me. Okay, I'm gonna have to show it to you then this way. The top two, this one is the tanur. This is a kupach. Okay, so this is the tanur over here, and this is the kupach. Okay, it's like different types of ovens. Okay, the tanur, usually you put it inside. The kupach, you put it on top. So nowadays, we would say that the tanur is like, nowadays, right, what we would say is that the tanur is like an oven, and the kupach is like a stove that it's going to be on the top. Okay,
Blech?
which one?
It's like a blech.
I wouldn't call it a blech, because a blech just makes it garuba katum. A blech just means that you're covering the coals. But the tanur, you cook inside of the tanur. The kupach, you cook on top of the kupach. So it's like a stove top. Okay, that's the kupach. And the tanur is inside of the tanur. Okay?
Okay.
So now it says like this. Tanur shisikua bekashu guvava. So if you took a tanur and you put the fuel, the coals of with kashu guvava, which if you remember, the kashu guvava is basically the lower form of like the straw, right? And all these things, which is basically the lower form of a fire. So lo yiten, you're still not allowed to put a food in it, whether it's mitocho or beme'al gabav, whether it's inside of it or on top of it. A kupach, which was the second one that I just showed you, shisikua bekashu guvava, that you put kashu guvava, hareze kikiraim. So then that's like a stovetop, which you are allowed to put it on top. Now, but if you used, right, gefes ve'etzim, which means in the kupach you put refuse of olives or wood, so then it's like an oven, which means that the kupach, it depends what fuel you're using to heat it up. What is it like? Is it like a kidaim, which is like the stovetop, or is it like a tanur, like an oven? If it's an oven, you're never allowed to put inside anything in an oven, right? But if it's going to be with the other one, so then you're allowed to. Okay, that's the Mishnah. Okay, again, we're talking about also from Erev Shabbat. Okay, so says the Gemara, Tanur shisikuha, we're talking about a tanur that they came and they put, we said that you're not allowed to put a food on top of it, whether inside of it or on top of it. So says the Gemara, Samar Rav Yosef lememar, Rav Yosef comes and he thought to say, Tocho mamash, ve'al gabav mamash. When it says inside of it, means mamash inside of it. When it says al gabav on top of it, it's mamash on top of it. Aval ismoch, but to do semicha, shapir dami. It's permitted. Remember, semicha means that I have the oven, this is the oven, and I have it right beside the oven. Right? I'm going to have it right beside the oven. That's called semicha, right beside it. Okay? So that should be permitted. So it says, Abaye is now going to ask the question, kupach shisikua bekashu bava, when you have a kupach, which was the lower form, it's not an oven, it's a lower form of an oven, that you used with it, with straw, right? And gavava, which is basically the linens and all these things. Hareu kikiraim, it's like a kiraim, which means you're allowed to put it on top of it. Gevevetzim, you're not allowed to, because it's like an oven, it's a sur. Hakira, but the kira itself, right? It's shadi, it's going to be permitted. What permitted what? What's permitted exactly? Ile mal gabav, if you're going to tell me it's permitted to put it on top of it, uvemai, so then what are we talking about? If it's talking about shenu garuv v'ketum, it's not garuv v'ketum, which means you didn't take out the coals or you didn't cover the fire, right? Ela kira ki ene gufa k'tum al gabav mishari. Are you allowed to do that on a kira? Ela lav, but rather lismoch. We're talking about you doing semicha v'katani, and you just said areu ketanur v'asur. That you just said it's like a tanur, and then it's going to be asur. So what's going on then? So one more time, we have three stages. We have a kira, we have a kupach, and then we have a tanur. Tanur is the most stringent. Tanur is always a sur. Tanur is an oven. You're not allowed to do to put anything on an oven on Shabbat before Shabbat and leave it there on the oven. Kira is permitted. Okay. Now we have the kupach in the middle. So he said depends what you're using for the fuel of the kupach. If the fuel of the kupach is straw, right, kashuk vava, so then you put it like the kira. If the kupach is with gefet ve'etzim, the refuse of olives and wood, you throw it to the tanur. So now we're trying to understand what does that mean exactly. Okay, why? Because we wanted to be medayek, we wanted to deduce from our Mishnah that a tanur, you're not allowed to put it on top of it or inside of it, but you're allowed to do semicha, you're allowed to put it beside it. So then says the Gemara, 1 second. So then explain to me what's going on with the kupach. The kupach we just said, if it was with kashu vava, with straw, right, and vava, what do we say? It's like a kiraim, which means, right, that you're allowed to leave something on it before Shabbat. If it's gevevetzin, right, with the refuse of olives or wood, it's like a tanur, it's like the oven. So now it says 1 second. The kira, right, it's going to be permitted. What does that mean? Are we talking about that it's on top of it? So then what are we talking about? If it's not garuv v'ketum, you're not allowed to do it, right? You're not allowed to put something on top of it. If it's not garuv v'ketum, which means you didn't cover over the fire or you didn't take out the coals, I'm going to suspect you're going to do that on Shabbat, right? Elalav, but rather, what are we talking about? We're talking about semicha. So he says 1 second. So then we said that the kupach is like the tanur, and then it's going to be asur. So you're not allowed to do semicha on a tanur. So says the Gemara, Amar Rava Barava, says Rava Barava, Hacha bekupach garuv v'ketum v'tanur garuv v'ketum askina. Here we're talking about that they're all garuv v'ketum, meaning even the kupach and also the tanur is garuv v'ketum. So since the tanur, the oven, and the kupach are both garuv v'ketum, which means you took out the coals or you covered the fire, so therefore we're talking about semicha. So therefore we said hareu ketanur, it's like a tanur. Even though it's karuv v'katum, al gabav asur, on top of it is asur, right? Di kikira, but if it's going to be like a kira, it's like going to be permitted. So therefore, a kupach, okay, one more time, a kupach that is with gefet uvetzim is like a tanur, and even though it's karuv v'katum, you're not allowed to come and you're not allowed to use anything with it. Okay? Fine. Says the Gemara, Tanya Kavatid Abaye, we also learned in accordance to Abaye, Tanur, Shisikua Bekashu Gavara. When we're talking about an oven that they put it with Kashu Gavara, En Somchinlo, you're not allowed to do semicha with it. The En Seich Lomar Al Gabav, you don't have to say on top of it, but that's for sure not. If you can't do semicha, then for sure you cannot put something on top of it. The En Seich Lomar Letochon, we're not talking about whether you put something inside of it as well. The En Seich Lomar Begev Vitzim, we don't need to be talking about that is talking about gefet uvetzim, that for sure it's going to be asur. Kupach sheisuko bekashu v'vava, when we're talking about a kupach that they use for kashu v'vava, somchim lo v'notrim agabav, right? So you could do simicha and you put things on top of it. Begefet uvetzim, we're talking about gefet uvetzim, and somchim lo, we don't put it on top of it. So Amale Ravacha bered Rava Ravashi, says Ravacha bered Rava to Ravashi. 1 second. Which kupach, this kupach, what are we dealing with? Right? Ike kira dami. If you're going to tell me that we're talking about like a kira, so then afilu begefet vetzim nami. Even if it's going to be begefet vetzim, it should also be permitted because it's karu vekatum. V'ike tanur dami. If it's going to be like an oven, so afilu bekashu nami lo. So even if it's going to be with kashu vava, also it should be prohibited. Right? So he says, Amalei, he says, no. Nafi shavlemi the kira vezute vremi the tanur. The kupach is in the middle. It's a middle ground. What does that mean? It's much stronger than a kira, but it's less than a tanur. And therefore, it's in the middle grounds. That if it has kashu vava, it's like a kira, right? And if it's called gevetzim, it's like a tanur, which means it's in no man's land because it's in the middle. So there, it's not exactly like a kira, and it's not like a tanur, it's in the middle. Okay? So it says the Gemara, what's the difference then between a kupach and a kira? What's the difference? A kupach only has enough place to put one pot on top. A kira has a place to put 2 pots on top. So therefore, what happens is, and that's what he's saying over here, he brings it in the previous footnote, that basically, since it's got for 1 pot, it's a much stronger fire than if it has for 2 pots, because it's much more concentrated, the fire. So therefore, the kupach is much more stronger than a kira. Okay? Amar Abaye. Abaye says, Vitam Rav Yumi, and some people say it's Rav Yirmiyah. Afana nami tanina, we also learned it, right, in a Mishnah. Kira shenechleka leorkat tehora. If you have a kira which was tameh, so a kira tmeah, that was impure, and now it got split in the middle, it's going to be tehora. Right? Why? Because now you only could put, one thing on top of it. L'rochba tmeah. But if it's going to be l'rochba tmeah, so here in the art school you have a picture. You got one picture here and one here, right? Here, it just split it in the middle, so now you have 1 pot, 1 pot. Here, you split it all through, so it's completely like on both sides. You understand? Like it's completely split on both. So it says here, if it was l'ruka, it's going to be tehora, right? Well, why? Because now you can't put anything on it, basically. Because now you can't even do anything. It's not even a utensil anymore. However, it was l'rochba. From a kira, you made it into a kupach, two kupachs. So therefore, it's still temeah. Kupach, if it was a kupach, right, that was split, ben leorka, ben lerochba, tahor. It's always going to be tahor, but now you can't put anything on top of it. So now that you can't put anything on top of it, so therefore, it's going to be pure. Because remember, a utensil that was impure, in order for it to become pure again, it has to break. Once it breaks, then it becomes pure again. Okay, until here we're clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, all good.
Okay. I thought I heard somebody wanted to ask a question. I wasn't sure. Okay. Says the Mishnah, Lamedchet Amubet. Okay, next Mishnah. En notnim beitza betzad hamicham, right, bishvil shetitgalgel. So you're not allowed to put an egg beside a mecham, beside a kumkum, in order that it should start warming up, right? In order that it should be megulgelet. So here in the footnote, you have a very beautiful, it says over here, right? It says over here like this. It says, why does it call it gilgul? Right? Because basically what happens is that it could roll, okay? So, right? That's how you know whether it's going to become, meaning if you want to know if an egg is raw or not, check if it rolls, okay? That's what it is. So here you have the picture. Right here. Beitza, the egg beside the kumkum. So you're not allowed to put the beitza, the egg beside the kumkum, in order that it should start roasting, to have like a half-boiled egg, in order that it should start rolling. Okay? So now it says over here like this. So that's what the Chokhmat Manuach says here. That the second that means if you want to know if an egg is raw or not, try to roll it, like to spin it. If it's going to be able to spin, so you know it's cooked. If not, then it's not cooked. Okay? So one more time. And don't open it up. Don't break it open on a sudar in the sun. That's this picture here. I apologize that I can't share the screen. I don't know what's going on with the computer. Here, I broke open the egg on top of a sudar, on top of like a handkerchief in the sun, in order that it would make like scrambled eggs. We spoke about this, if you remember, about Israeli soldiers in this desert. Are they allowed to break open the egg on top of their vans and it's going to cook, right, on Shabbat, on top of their...
In the sun? In the sun?
In the sun, in the Chama. Okay? So it says, don't break it on top of a sudar in order for it to become heated up by the sun. But Rabbi Yosef says it's going to be permitted. You're also not allowed to do a tmana in sand or a vak drachim, which is basically the vak of the drachim, right? Which is going to be heated up on Shabbat, in order that it should be roasted. Okay, remember that sand has an incredible feature that sand insulates both ways. Meaning, if something's hot, it'll keep it hot for longer. If something's cold, it'll keep it cool for longer. That's a very important yisod to do with sand. It's brought down, and I think if I remember correctly, Rashba and the Mishnah Berurah brings it down also in the Sharat Tziyum. Okay? So there was a story, right? What they did is that they brought, the people of Tveria brought a silon shel sonen, cold water pipe, and they brought it through a hot water, right, of Chametz Veria, in order that the cold water will become hot on Shabbat. So it says over here like this. Let me just check. The top picture. This is the silon shel mayim, the pipe of water into hot water. That's Chametz Veria. Okay? So it says over here, right? Amru lahem chachamim, says chachamim, im b'Shabbat, if the water, the cold water was going into it on Shabbat, it's like chamin shuchamu b'Shabbat. It's like you had hot water that was heated up on Shabbat and it's a sur. You're not allowed to drink it and you're not allowed to wash your hands. You're not allowed to do anything with it. But if it was done on Yom Tov, so then it's going to be like water which was heated up on Yom Tov. And you're not allowed to wash your body with it, because you're not allowed to wash your body with water that was heated up on Yom Tov, but you're allowed to drink it. Okay? Fine. So now it says the halacha as follows. It says the Gemara, Ibai lehu. We're going to ask the following question. Ilgel mai. What's the halacha if a person did do this? Meaning they put the egg beside the micham, and it started cooking. The egg started cooking because I put it right beside the hot water urn, and it starts boiling up, right? So what's halacha? Yosef says Gilgel is chayav chatat, the yisur doraita of cooking, right? Why? Because the second that it starts heating up and it starts becoming tzli, right? It's a yisur doraita. Okay. Now obviously this is very easily cooked because it's an egg. Egg is easily cooked. Okay. So says the Gemara, we also learned in the Mishnah later on. The Mishnah says, we're on Lamed Tet Amud Aleph on the top. We're just going to try to get to the two dots. Okay, so it says, Kol Shabbat bechamin minifnei Shabbat. Anything which came into hot water before Shabbat, shorin ato bechamin Shabbat. So now you can put it back again in hot water on Shabbat. Meaning, if I put something in hot water before Shabbat and it stayed there and it basically cooked that way, so then on Shabbat itself, I could again put it in hot water. Okay? Why? Because it was already cooked before Shabbat. But if it didn't go into hot water before Shabbat, I could only rinse it out with hot water on Shabbat, except for the maliyach hayashan, except for salted fish from last year, the kuyasa ispanim, and a type of like a tuna fish from Spain. Okay, that it's a sur to do that.
Anchovies.
Well, anchovies, okay. So it says, why is it asur? The reason why is because these types of fish, right, they're very, very soft. So therefore, what happens is that all you have to do is rinse it out in hot water and you cooked it. And that's all that it is. And that's all that you need. So it comes out, adachatan, so yigmar melachtan. That when you just rinsed it out right now, that in itself is the finishing of the melacha. Shmamina, so we learn from here, right, that also the same thing is with the egg. The fact that the egg is so easily cooked, all I have to do is put it beside the meicham, beside this urn, and it's going to become roasted. That's it. I don't need mamash 100% a hard-boiled egg. So and it becomes very, very easily cooked. So therefore, it's going to become prohibited. Okay?
So tuna